Hey, this is Fireman Rob. You know, optimal performance isn't something that happens just by accident. I know this for a fact from being a fireman and doing way too many Ironman triathlons in full firefighter gear. But everybody always asks me, what's your secret? I can give you one secret. That's the right stuff hydration. Hydration is important when it comes to being present in the moment, ready to run into the fires and being capable of showing up every single time at your best. The right stuff was created for NASA, by NASA, for their astronauts. Now it's trusted by professional athletes in Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, and most of the top-tier college sports. It's not an accident to prepare yourself to be great. If you're looking for that next edge, go to therightstuff-usa.com and enter the code FiremanRob and you will get 10% off at your checkout. This is an opportunity I wouldn't pass up. I have and still do use the right stuff. It's serious hydration for serious athletes, from the weekend warriors to those on the front lines. Make this a part of your habits to be the best you daily.
Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
We got the same blood, the same blood. Stay by your side, it's ride or die. We've got the same.
Welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. I've got a great guest today that you're going to love to hear from. His story is amazing. He impacts people throughout the globe pretty much on a daily basis. If you follow him on Instagram or if you follow him on LinkedIn, you're going to know that he's impacting lives every single day. My guest today is Chris Singleton. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Hearing your story, and your story continues to thrive. I think that's the cool part about it, is you didn't stop at just being that message. But I want to go back to really where that change in your life was. I know it's jumping right into that, but going back to when you're 18 years old, playing college baseball, you're an outfielder for Charleston Southern. What happened that really changed the trajectory of your life?
Yeah, man, I call it the unthinkable. Something stuff we see on TV, we see happen in the news and newspapers, but we never think it'll happen to us. And for me, that was June 17, 2015, when my mom, as well as 8 other people, were murdered in a mass shooting at Mother Emanuel Church. It was a racially motivated mass shooting, and that's when everything changed for me.
And the most amazing thing, here you are, 18 years old, and your response to this was the most amazing part, that inspiring a city, inspiring a nation, that you were able to say love is stronger than hate. How did you do that at 18 years old?
Yeah, man, I honestly think those words were placed on me. I'm a man of faith, number one, but I think, it was just placed on me some way, somehow. I also forgave my mother's killer. And if you'd have asked me, Chris, would you ever think you'd forgive your mother's killer for taking her life away because she's black? I would have said there's no way in a million years. Right. That's why I think it was placed on me, because it was almost instantaneous. And now I see the power in forgiveness after years of going through the process of it. And it was really just life-changing for me. But to answer your question, yeah, man, I think it was just placed on me because I didn't think about what I would say. It just kind of came out. That's
amazing. You talk about forgiveness, and I think that's one of the hardest things people today are going through, is being able to forgive. What are some of those components that you were? I mean, at 18 years old, that's amazing to have that. But as you kind of reflected on those moments, what are some of those things that you took away of how did this forgiveness really manifest into something new?
I think number one, I realized that forgiveness, it doesn't mean you'll forget something, right? I think a lot of times
Right.
we hear the words forgive and forget, but you don't ever forget if it was truly painful, if it truly hurt you deep down. But what forgiveness allows you to do is to move forward in your life. And for me, it allowed me to not think about my mother's killer 24/7. It
Right.
allowed me to be free from the feelings of needing revenge or constant anger, and it just freed me from those things. So those are some things that I've learned from the power of forgiveness. But at the end of the day, I think you have to tell yourself, okay, if I forgive myself or if I forgive this person for doing this, what is it going to allow you to do? If there's no reward on the other side, then it's going to be tough for us to get there. So I definitely encourage people to think about what is on the other side of forgiveness. And for me, it was to being a better husband to my wife, being a better father to my son, not thinking about my mother's killer constantly, like all those things, that I got from it definitely outweighed than me not forgiving them.
And I love that you mentioned your family, because that's such a huge thing, especially as we're going through life, and to be that positive role model. What does it mean to be able to go out now and speak to other individuals about the passion that you found to be a better people? What does that mean?
Yeah, I think for me, I never wanted to be a professional speaker or anything like that, or motivational speaker. Like, I didn't want to be anything like that. I just wanted to play baseball. I got drafted by the Cubs and played a little while, and everything really changed for me after my mom was killed. I realized that I was more than just an athlete, and I had this message of unity, of bringing people together, of resilience that I needed to share. And then the opportunities started to come, and I took it seriously, right? And for me, it's much more than just an opportunity on the stage to share a message. For me, it's an opportunity to speak life into somebody. It's an opportunity for me to change someone's heart and their perspective of racism that may be in the audience listening to me. So I don't take it lightly. I get to share a lot, but every single opportunity that I get, it means the world to me.
And how did that change in your life when you go from something that you wanted to do your entire life of playing baseball at that pro level, and then your life changed? Was there that feeling of loss, not just that you lost your mom, but you also lost the passion and drive that you were able to get to that professional level?
Yeah, I think for me, it was more of a transition. So whole time while I was playing professional baseball, I played in the minor leagues, got drafted by the Cubs, and I was playing in the minor leagues. And I knew that I was more than just a baseball player. And so for me, in the off season, I would, go speak and share this message. Even during the season, right, I would always be the one known to go volunteer at nonprofits, and I lived in an elderly community at one point. So just doing those things, I knew that I was more than just an athlete. So the transition was actually kind of smooth for me. Obviously, I loved playing the sport of baseball. It got me through so much. It was therapy for me for a while. But I knew that I had, other things in this life that I was supposed to do. And I'm grateful that I'm able to do them now.
And listening to your speeches, it's hard not to get chills when you talk, because and one of the most impactful moments when you talk about the 5 numbers that are your motivation. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I sure can. So I call them my struggle moment that pushes me forward. And it's 1, 70, 50, 9, and 1. And these 5 numbers, allow me to be on the road and miss my son or miss my wife, but I continue to do them to be on a mission that I am. And the numbers is one person who was misled and misinformed to hate my mom and hate me based on the color of our skin. He walked into my church and fired over 70 bullets. And over 50 of those bullets entered bodies while people were praying in my church. And he took 9 lives, and one of those lives was my mom. And that's why I do what I do, because of those 5 numbers.
I love it. And you speak over 60 times annually over the last 3 years. That's amazing. That's a lot of times. What is your audience? When you go up there, what is your objective? What do you see as, when I leave here, I would love these people to do this or feel this?
Yeah, there's really two things. Number one, well, I'm fortunate enough to speak to audiences of all different, age groups. One day I'm speaking to Microsoft's group of 900 employees, one of their teams, and then the next day I'm speaking to a group of second graders, right? So
I love that. I love that.
But my two things that I definitely want to get across in every single opportunity that I have is, number one, just to show resilience. One of my favorite quotes basically says that life is sometimes is 10% action, 90% reaction. You're going to be given things in life. Things are going to happen. It's all about how you respond to them that make up the majority of your life. So I want to talk about resilience. But number two, and most importantly, with my mission, is to bring people together, right? This message of unity that I have, whether it's corporately, whether it's with our students, whether it's with our siblings, whatever it may be. I just want to really teach people and remind people that nobody chooses their skin color. So we should love people regardless of what they look like or where they're from, because also nobody chooses their first language either or where they're born. Right. So that's the main mission, man.
I love it. And you actually took that to another level, because you made there's a clothing brand, which is awesome. It's Love Your Neighbor brand. You can go to www.loveyourneighborbrand.com. But also at the same point, you also made a book, and your first children's book ever that you made. Tell me more about a story about losing your neighbor, or loving your neighbor. I'm sorry, a story about loving your neighbor.
Yeah. So my first of all, I created that clothing brand about 4 years ago. I created while I was still playing baseball. Like I said, I've always wanted to be known as more than just a baseball player and share this story. And so I would, sign my name, Chris, Singleton, sign my signature, and then put love is stronger than or greater than hate on all my baseballs that I would sign, every single thing that I would sign. And then Love Your Neighbor brand came from that. Just a way to continue to promote my message of unity. And then I said, before I started speaking to elementary school students, I said, I speak corporately, I speak to colleges, high schools, but I don't feel comfortable sharing my story with elementary school students, right? I said, it's too sad. I don't want to take away their innocence, talk about my mom. And so I didn't know how to do that. And that's where the children's book came along. And I said, you know what? I can share this mission that I'm on in a story while not taking away their innocence. And that's where we came up with the book, Different, a story about loving your neighbor. And to be honest with you, I self-published a book, right? I'm super young. I'm 24, 25 in a couple months. And so there was no.
Oh, man, that's really young.
Yeah, I am. And there was no publishing company that was reaching out to me like, hey, Chris, we want you to write the book. And so I ended up self-publishing, put my own money behind it. And I told my wife, hey, if this falls flat, at least it was a gift to my mom, because she's one of the main characters in it. And so we released it. It did extremely well. I thought I would sell 1,000 copies just to make my money back, and we ended up selling 16,000 copies thus far. School districts have taken it. The Obama Foundation got it and shouted it out. Different magazines, different celebrities, they've supported me. So it's definitely done extremely well, and more than I could have ever imagined as a self-published author. So I'm grateful. And in the story, it's basically just, us teaching this little kid, Obina, who's from Nigeria. He comes over to the States and gets picked on because he's different. And at the end of the story, everybody celebrates the fact that he's different and the fact that everybody's different, and we need to celebrate those differences. So that's the story in a nutshell.
I love that, because that really speaks to the passion. When you go out there with a passion and a purpose, it really doesn't matter what the final product is. It's going to come to you, those rewards. And like you're saying, you made this book out of a passion and a purpose, one, for your mother, and two, to get that message out there to the younger kids. And, to get 16,000 already sold, that's that product of that passion. Talk to me more about how your passion continues to change as you go forward. I know you do one-on-one coaching, and you do keynote speaking, and you're going to continue to write books, I hope. Tell me how that passion continues to manifest itself.
Yeah, it's really just become, how can I serve people in the best way, right? So for a while, it was just going to nonprofits. It was like, man, I love Miracle League, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that,
Yep.
where kids with disabilities can play baseball. Like, I love that kind of stuff. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm, doing what I'm supposed to do in the world. And then it became speaking, right? Sharing my story, sharing my passion and my mission on how we can come together and just get through things has been phenomenal. And so I've continued to do that. And then I realized there were so many people that want to be inspirational speakers or professional speakers. And I've been extremely blessed to, go from getting no money to getting paid 5 figures for engagements now, and just trying to figure out how I can share that information that I've learned with people, because they ask me all the time. And that's when I started doing this coaching thing on building a speech, on creating a speaking business that can last, have lasting impact, and can help you financially build a legacy for you and your family. So that's the way I've helped people. And yeah, I've actually got another children's book coming out next month. So
I was hoping you did.
Yeah, man, I do. I'm trying to just, continue to give people what they want. And this one's actually called Your Life Matters. And so this is signaled towards teaching Black history to our students, to our little kids. And we got different Black heroes like Jackie Robinson, Dr. King, Maya Angelou, Harriet Tubman, just teaching Black history throughout the country. And so that's my next children's book coming out next month.
I love it. You definitely have to go to www.chrissingleton.com to find out more about him and all the projects that you're doing. Now, like your next books that's going to be, how powerful is that to be able to teach not just Black history to individuals, but Black history to everybody, to be able to understand like how powerful that is?
I think it's huge. The other day somebody asked me, a teacher said, "Hey, Chris, I've got students who say, why do we celebrate Black history? Why don't we celebrate, whatever history is what the kids said?" And I guess she didn't know the answer. And I said, I think it's great that we celebrate all history for sure. But I think about in our country, sometimes we have to think about the good and the bad. And we need to say, you know what? There were probably a ton of, Black people that created amazing things that never got mentioned for them. And so this is just a small way that we can remember people that may not have been remembered had it been in different times. So I kind of shared that with her, and the kid had a light bulb moment, like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And so that's really what I want to do with people, right? There's good that comes from bad for sure. And I want to just highlight the things that we think, or that I think should be taught.
And I love that. It's not about saying, hey, we have to do this because maybe you don't know about it. It's getting people to have those light bulb moments to understand that our world is a huge place. It does not revolve around one street, one address, one community. It's a bigger place. And I want you to talk more about your mom, because your mom sounded like an amazing person. She was a track coach. She ran track in college. She's working on her PhD. How much did she shape your life to be who you are today?
Yeah, man. Funny enough, my mom was a speech language pathologist. And one of the things she would always do is she would say, "Hey, Chris, make sure you're saying this the right way." She didn't allow me to speak crazy, right? And so it's funny how things worked out that now, I speak for a living, and that's my profession, and that's my mission. And I think that's not on accident, right? My mom would always make me say things this way or that way. And now this is what I do for my life. And she shaped me in that way. She shaped me as a hard worker. She not only worked at a couple of different schools, but she also worked and did her thing on the side with whether it was with speech language pathology or just having different clients that she would help that had disabilities with their speech. So she was extremely hard working. And I think she instilled that in me as well, to have that work ethic and keep, have that drive. So she was everything, man. Her one of her favorite movies we'd watch together were the Taken series. I don't know if you're familiar with the Taken movies.
That was her favorite series?
Yeah, well, me and her, we'd watch those together. So those are some of our favorite movies to watch together as a family. But those are just a couple of things about my mom and how awesome she was.
I love that she was a speech pathologist, and you were like, no way, I'm never going to become a speaker. and now you kind of have to believe that she led you down that path that you didn't even know you were going down.
Definitely. And there's something called Toastmasters. I'm not for sure if you're familiar with the organization. And my mom used to go to Toastmasters when she was preparing she was preparing to give, sermons or whatever it was. She went to Toastmasters, and I thought it was, funny how all that kind of worked out.
I love that. And you're a man of faith, and a lot of the speeches that I've seen you talk to individuals at churches and talk about faith. How much has faith brought you to be able to speak consistently about that tragic moment and speak consistently about how people can continue to move forward?
Yeah, well, it's huge in my life, man. I think, if I wasn't a believer, or if, my mom wasn't a believer, I think I'd be in a rougher spot, right? My mom was praying when she was taken away. And I think there's two ways you can go when your mom's killed when she's praying. You could say, number one, there's no way God is real. Or you could say, God, I don't know how this happened, but I know I need you to help me get through it. Right. And I went with the latter. And I believe, God's definitely gotten me through it. I don't have all the answers. I don't have a voice whispering in my ear, but I feel like there's a higher power that's leading me. So it's been huge in my life.
I love that. How you don't, I think a lot of people right now are worried about because they don't have all the answers, because it's very unsure and it's very challenging. What would be some of the things that you would say from your experience, from your vast knowledge? What can some things that people can take away and use in their own lives?
Yeah, I think number one, when it comes to my faith, right, I think people automatically say, well, if there's a higher power, why do bad things happen to good people? Right. And in the best-selling book of all time, right, the Bible, it talks about how, consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds in the Bible. And it's just like, okay, so it's telling us that we're going to face trials, but it then says because that the testing of that, produces endurance, and that endurance produces character, and that character produces hope. And I think that scripture alone in Romans is an epitome of what I've gone through in my life, right? I've gone through so much, but I think it's given me endurance, right? To face more trials. It's given me confidence to face the next thing. You know as well as me that when you go through something, you have a little bit more confidence when you face your next trial or tribulation, right? Because you've been through something and you've gotten through it. So I want people to realize that, yes, bad things are going to happen for sure. But it's my faith, it's my resilience, it's my will to keep pushing forward that allows me to keep going.
I absolutely love that. You got to go to www.chrissingleton.com. You can find that the great children's book, Different, a story about loving your neighbor. You can also go, if you're a speaker that's looking to find your voice, find your way. I definitely suggest that you go to find more about his one-on-one coaching, because it is so valuable to have somebody who speaks with passion. When you talk to individuals about in essence, coach them on speaking, what is the biggest thing that you tell them when they're starting to craft their message?
Number one, people say, Chris, I need an agency. I need this. I need that. And it's, I've probably gotten 10 engagements from agencies over the last 3-4 years. Like you have to be the person to go out and share this message. And then number two, the best marketing for every single speaker, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, is a great product. Your speech needs to be like, wow, okay, this guy is amazing. He's phenomenal. I got to tell my cousin about him. I got to tell my school teacher about him. I got to tell my next door neighbor about him. I teach people how to craft an amazing speech, because that alone will allow you to keep pushing forward in your speaking endeavors. And that's probably the biggest thing I want to share with people. It's not about this or that. At the end of the day, your speech is what's going to get you booked and rebooked.
I love that. I love that. Now, one of the things that I read, and we are kind of going back to what you had said before, you talk about that 10% of your life is action, the other 90% is reaction. I love that statement because it really resonates with me, because you talk about something happens to you that is your 10%. Don't let it affect your 90. I want you to talk more about that because that's a huge statement.
Yeah, I think with a lot of people, we all know that life happens to everybody. Adversity doesn't have a filter on what you look like. It doesn't care how much money your parents have, or it doesn't care what your last name is, right? Adversity happens. But
Right.
I think what separates people is the fact that, yes, it happens to everybody, but what do you do to respond to that, right? So some people, it happens at an early age. Maybe you had a rough upbringing. Some people it doesn't happen till you're 40, right? Everything was great in life, and then all of a sudden a tragedy strikes or disease happens. And then it's all about how do you respond to that. And I think for me, that unlocked everything for me, because up until a point in my life, I thought, you know what? Some people just have it easy. People talk about silver spoon or whatever it may. Some people just have it a little bit easier than others, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, adversity is going to happen to everybody. It may not happen until you're 25. It may not happen until you're 65, but it happens. And when it does, how do you respond? And the response is essentially what makes up your character, and it basically shapes the rest of your life.
I love it, Chris. If somebody doesn't leave this podcast with information today, they weren't listening hard enough. Chris, it's been amazing to have you on today. You got to go to www.chrissingleton.com to find out more. I always end my podcast the same way, with 3 questions for my guests. And these questions are here to challenge you. So you ready for the first one?
I'm ready.
All right. What would be the one suggestion, and this one's interesting for asking you, what would be the one big suggestion or advice that you would tell your 18-year-old self?
I think number one, I would stop caring about what other people thought of me when I was 18, right? I just put my head down, put the horse blinders on, and just work and do what I love to do. So I would tell myself, don't care what other people say about what you're wearing or what you're driving or whatever it may be. Just do what you have to do to build the life you want to have. So that's probably the thing I would tell myself.
That's great advice. Now, here's the second one. So there's a lot of people that are going through, and we had talked about this a little earlier, the challenging times, the hard times, and it's on all different levels. What would you say would be 2 daily habits, and it can be in the morning or in the evening, that you would suggest that people incorporate into their life to start living forward?
This is a great question. I'd say number one, you have to serve people. I've never met a person that says, "Hey, Chris, after I volunteered today, I feel worse about my life."
So true.
So I think when you take things, when you basically go serve with a nonprofit or with an organization that needs your help, it's really hard for you to come out of there feeling, worse than when you came in. So I definitely think people should serve others. It helps build them, their confidence, it could actually help people get out of depression by helping other people. Right. I've seen it happen.
Yep.
And then number two, I'd say, and it's the cliche thing of somebody's always got it worse. That is true. But it's okay to show your emotions, right? I think a lot of people think, in order to be strong, you have to pretend like everything's all right all the time. I realized really early that's not being strong. That's just being fake. And so show your emotions, let it out when you have to, because at the end of the day, you're only hurting yourself when you keep trying to fake it until you make it, So number one, serve people. That service would allow you to feel better. Number two, let it out when you have to. Don't feel weird about it. Be secure in who you are as a person, and just let that pain out when you need to.
I completely agree. That second one is so powerful, and it takes a while for people to really get comfortable with doing that, because it's like you said, sometimes it's frowned upon. Sometimes you feel hard for that. How did you? I want to kind of dive into that for a second. How did you really transition to that and see the power of being able to let the emotions out?
Yeah, for me, I had put up this fake face of being Mr. Okay all the time, right? We see it in superheroes, right? You look at Superman, you can, bulletproof, can fly, you can, he can run into a train, or train can run into him and it doesn't affect them. You just think that's what strength is. And for me, my brother and sister who were younger than me, who I was taking care of after my mom and dad had passed away. I'm young. I'm not even 21 years old at the time, taking care of them. And I got my wife and my son on the way. And I would just pretend like nothing ever affected me. And in turn, I realized that they were just pretending that nothing ever affected them. And I realized that wasn't healthy. And so after my father passed away at his funeral, I let out the emotions. I finally let things flow. And this is about 1.5 years after my mom was killed. My dad died, and I let the emotions flow. I didn't hold back. And in turn, I saw my brother and sister finally say, man, I can finally let it out too. And that's when I realized there's power in just being transparent and being vulnerable, and not faking it like you're okay all the time.
I love that's one of the most powerful messages right there. It's a huge thing, and I've had to learn that, and I know there's a lot of people out there that will take that message to heart. All right, the last question here. This is kind of a fun one. Who would you pick for having coffee with? It's 3 people. They can be deceased or alive, and it's at a firehouse coffee table or a firehouse table, so you can have any question. Any question is not off the table. Who would those 3 people be and why?
Ooh, number 1 would be Jesus. No questions asked, right?
We've had that a lot. I love that.
Yeah, definitely my Lord and Savior. That's not even he's number 1. And obviously for obvious reasons, right? His love for us, like what I'm selfishly trying to figure out, okay, well, when are you coming back? Right. You say you're coming back at the night. So I'm trying to figure that out. Number 2, I'd probably say Dr. King. Dr. King's one of my heroes. Obviously for obvious reasons, right?
Right. By far.
So I'd probably say Dr. King. And number 3, who would I'd probably say, I think this guy's name is Herman Russell. He was a guy who actually funded a lot of Dr. King's endeavors. He was a real estate guy in Atlanta. Really? And came up literally from a shoe shiner to hundreds of millions of dollars in net worth as a real estate guy. And I'm a person who invests in real estate after I, have done okay with speaking. I don't want to blow my money, so I've been investing in real estate. And so I'd probably ask him some questions too, because he literally came from, segregation, shoe shining, right? He became a master plasterer doing houses, and then ended up getting contracts from people who didn't want anybody that was black to do their work. But he was so good at doing what he did, they had no choice because he was the best. Right. And he just built up a huge business from that, and ended up helping build the Atlanta airport. Like it's just phenomenal human being. Yeah. So I'd probably ask him.
Now, which one of those do you think would drink the most coffee?
That's a good one. I don't even know. I don't know. I gotta say, I'm probably say Jesus, because
he's up all the time.
Omniscient. What can't he do, right?
Exactly.
I
love it. Hey, Chris, it was such an honor to have you on today, and thank you so much for all the words of wisdom. And people can go to www.chrissingleton.com, but I'd say definitely go get your shirt, go to loveyourneighborbrand.com. Chris, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me, bud.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.